Me and you don't agree on everything, but we're still in a relationship and we make it work and we love each other deeply and respect one another, even though we don't have the same opinion on every single thing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how do we can do that for everything else? Like, that's what we need to figure out.
Yeah.
And stop allowing other people's beliefs and stories to influence you. Have your own set of beliefs and values. Go inward.
And that's what I was going to say.
But I have to have empathy and compassion for everybody at the end of the day. I try to, at least, have empathy and compassion to understand. I don't know everyone's situation or what's going on for them. I just don't.
When you see white, affluent people who give zero fucks about anybody else and only care about their own family, you have compassion, empathy for them?
Welcome back to Over Dinner. I'm Jarrod.
And I'm Dr. Nikki. We're not experts, just two people doing the work together and apart.
Sharing real and unfiltered conversations about the human experience.
We're so close to the election.
So close.
Like 2 days.
2 days. How you feeling?
Nauseatingly optimistic.
Whoa.
That's a term I heard on Threads the other day.
What was it again?
Nauseatingly optimistic.
Optimistic. Pull that apart for me.
I think what the nauseating part is, at least in my perspective and in my opinion, that the alternative, it creates a lot of anxiety for me and nauseating feelings if it doesn't go the way I hope it will.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I think what I'm getting from a collective universal experience from Threads right now is that I'm sure the algorithm is in my favor of showing me things I want to be seeing.
Confirmation bias.
But it really is been inspiring to watch. I find myself laughing and crying and like watching these clips of things.
Yeah,
and
the human experience.
The human experience.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Nice.
How are you feeling?
Again, you know me. I don't go too far into the future.
Mm-hmm.
I watch certain things that I want to watch, right? And I'm trying to learn more. Obviously, I have my views and where I want this thing to go. But if you listen to the last solo episode, which is about optimism versus positivity, I'm not a big person who likes to hope for things to be a certain way because there's disappointment after that. So how I'm feeling is I want to go a certain way, and I think it would be beneficial to the country and where we need to head as America if it goes a certain way.
Yeah.
But also, whatever happens, how I translate that experience and what I do after that is what's most important. That's the positive mindset or outlook that I'll need to look at whatever happens either way and how I'm going to look at it moving forward. Go for it.
ADHD popping in. Here's my question for you. So the first thing that you said was about optimism. How did you say that again?
It's a hope. Essentially, you're hoping that something, a relationship or experience will get better.
Okay, great. So what is the difference between that and manifesting for something?
Manifesting is trying to create what the future looks like, not sitting back.
Okay.
So manifesting is there's action oriented. And like I said in the episode, I like to know that I have agency. I can make choice and take action. So you can't just manifest and then everything will happen after you envision of something that you want.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully what that typically does is it creates you to start creating actions towards hopefully that outcome will happen. Right.
Yeah.
So like you manifesting, you want the election to go a certain way. Well, obviously you're going to vote a certain way, but you'll probably in conversations, probably be more about that person and why and selling that a little bit more. You might be more active in certain places because you in your mind want a future of that event happening. So you're going to take more actions to do that. So that's agency. You get choice to feel like you can influence that outcome.
So should somebody be saying, I'm hoping for the outcome that I want? So what do we say instead?
Manifesting, you can't say I want something or hope something because what you say is what you're actually creating. So you're just going to create want and hope. So you will act in a way that's hopeful versus action to a future that exists. So you want to say, I want, you're imagining the future has already happened, that this person is the president of the United States, and putting yourself in that feeling and that mindset that that person is the president of the United States. So what's going to happen is you, in your mind, think that's true. So you will start acting as if that's true by saying certain things, influencing, having in conversations, speaking that way, which hopefully will have an influence on the outcome of that happening.
Yeah. Well, Tuesday, November 5th, 2024, which is election day here in America. I'm seeing people all over the world, from the UK, Australia, a lot of places in Europe, who are really invested into what's going to happen. I just saw something this morning that someone from the UK was writing that she's like, we may act snobby, but really America is our dream. I didn't say it in the best way,
You
but
could try.
I tried. But was saying that America is the dream, and that what they feel is what they're watching is that Americans are losing that dream.
Hmm.
But I'm just
I think the dream, and we talked about this the other day, the dream is the ability to have choice and agency, which
right,
democracy is
right,
the ability to have choice, to open a business, to grow a business, like
capitalism.
capitalism. But we're learning at this point that that also has maybe some not strengths. I think in a world paired now with social media,
Yeah,
it
there's
makes
a
it
lot of voices.
there's a lot of voices and a lot of things out there, and I think the benefit of America is the freedom of choice, agency to make decisions for yourself. And some feel in this election that that's at risk, and that feels risky when that's what makes us so wonderful. Like the fact that we all get to choose who is our president. I forget when I was listening to a podcast, like when that first happened, when John Adams, I think that's who's the second president of the United States, when he got voted in by the people, it really wasn't the full everybody right back then. Women couldn't vote and things, but that was the first time in any country that there was a democracy, a democratic vote for a president, which is like world changing, right? That the fact that it wasn't just two things typically happen. It was either passed down from generation to generation, or it was someone killed somebody to take over the throne. Like that's how it in every country worked forever until this was the first time it was voted in by a choice of people to who would be the president, which is an amazing thing.
Yeah.
Right? It's incredible. But
This makes me really, when I was a kid and we were like in all these history classes and like learning about economics and learning about the history of the United States and all these things, like I gave zero fucks.
yeah,
And it's fascinating how my evolution and my relationship with politics has grown since I've gotten older, since I have more skin in the game, since I became a parent, since I became a parent of a special needs child, of a daughter. If you haven't noticed the theme of what we're speaking about so far, before I get in any deeper, we're talking about really what's upcoming, the presidential election. Today, we wanted to kind of just have a conversation about that in general. It's something that's heavily on my mind. It's something that I'm heavily involved with. Talk about hyper focus and ADHD and having my favorite thing of the week. This has been my favorite thing for a while now, and I'm really trying to look at the picture and from many different angles and read from many different sources. I can really find a holistic perspective. We were talking about what does this look like in relationships? What does this look like when two people in a marriage have different viewpoints? What does this look like in a relationship when one of the individuals has a higher interest in the subject matter? And just that can be many different subject matters, but this one particularly is timely. It's about what we're currently experiencing as human beings on this planet, because the decision being made on Tuesday here in America will ripple through the entire world.
yeah, for sure.
And so this is a real experience that we're enduring. So that's what we're talking about today. Anything you'd like to add to that?
I think it started from that, and what we'll really talk about is as Nikki said, is that she has a higher interest, and this is top of her mind a lot, and a lot of things come up, and she reads a lot more of these things than I do. And I think what triggered this conversation is, her initially trying to engage in a conversation with me, and me just not, I don't think about it as much. I'm going to do my part and I'm going to vote. And as I said, I want it to go a certain way, and that's what I hope happens. But there's nothing I can do any more than what I've already done.
Yeah.
And so now for me, it's do my due diligence as an American, have the right to vote, and do that. Based off the outcome of this is what's the next actions I can take, and the next steps, and what does that look like for my family, and what does that look either way it goes.
Well, I think I'm just going to call it out just as it is. You don't have to look at a lot of things. So one of the elements of this election is about reproductive rights. And alongside of that is everything that goes into womanhood. It's not just about abortion. It's about really the lifetime experience of being a woman. I'm not just talking about childbearing years, but menopause and care, because there's a huge disparity between women's healthcare and men's healthcare. And that many studies have shown, like even seatbelts are designed for men, and they never tested a woman dummy. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot at stake for my gender. And I think from what I'm gathering is that many women are feeling that same way. And so we are having a bigger stake into what's happening and getting involved. I saw on threads that I was up to 76 something million Americans have already voted. 53% of them were women. They're saying, early election, early voting and early late voting, the lines are out the door. People are really involved in this election, which is so, so cool. But to just reroute and come all the way back, being a white, affluent male in this country buys you out of a lot of things.
Agreed.
And it's not going to affect you as much. And when I say you, it's really just men and white men is a privilege that comes with having the skin color that you have, having the job that you have, the educational background that you have, the access to healthcare, to insurance, to wellness. Like if you're like, I'm going to go to a functional doctor. So that's part of, I think, why it's so important. And like this whole conversation we're talking about today is not about women's rights and all these, it's a piece of the puzzle, right?
I think the first question I'll ask you is, being that we are different, our gender and maybe our interest as much into what's happening, even though I'm interested, it's very different. What is that experience like for you being in a relationship? Obviously a good relationship where we can communicate and have good conversations, but I know you try to engage and want to engage more in these topics. Like what does that feel like on your end when maybe I don't want to go fully there, I don't have a lot to say because I don't know as much, or it's just not as much interesting to talk about. But what is that experience like?
I think part of me knows that you're never going to like fully get some of these things. And so I'm going to talk to other people that have that interest and I can get that met. I think what's really important to me is that you do value what I'm talking about and you recognize its importance and that you are standing alongside me in those choices and how important this isn't just for me, but for the entire United States and the women within the United States. So I think that says a lot right there alone. Like I stand with you. I'm the type of person that really does like to dig in and open it up and have conversation about it. I was thinking about it actually on the car ride home before we started recording this, is that I sometimes feel that I'm too much. So like in the car when I was getting really heated talking about these things and like it's so quiet on your end, I feel like this fire's growing and growing and growing. And then I feel like I become the stereotype of women being hysterical or women, just being emotional and all these elements where it does not feel shared. It does not.
And it's probably not to the level that it is.
Well, I mean, let's take the Dodger game that you just watched.
Yeah, we didn't about this yet.
Like I very much enjoy, especially a World Series game. I recognize its importance. I think it's so cool, and I love that it's your team. I'll also adopt the Dodgers as my team as well. Cool. And I love that.
I appreciate we're on the support, as you said.
Yeah, I stand with you.
You're with me.
I stand with you. No, like I totally, like Jarrod was willing to stay up past midnight to finish watching this game. And 1 week later, I will be staying up past midnight to watch what's happening with the election. Yeah. He's like, I'm going to go to bed. Right. Whereas I could have gone to bed last week and been like, whatever, but I wanted to share that with you. That's besides the point. But what I'm trying to say is that I don't have the same vested interest. I'm not following stats. I don't know all the players. I don't know all the details of things. I don't care as much as you do. Yep. Right. And I've often thought about that. It's like, what is that like for him when I don't care as much, but I'm just there?
What's cool is that sports, which is really cool. Like you can talk, you'll ask questions, and I like informing you. But I don't think I need you like me. Maybe back in when I was way more extreme, like when sports was my life and it was everything, that maybe that was a little bit different. It was like a big gap, but just because I was like so obsessed with sports, right? It was on all the time. We'd watch anything that was on TV that was sports. And I'm sure that wasn't great for you either. But I don't think it bothers me. I love that you wanted to sit there. I wouldn't have been upset if you went upstairs and wanted to do your own thing. Like, I was in my own I was in my own world going through a bunch of emotions. But yeah, just like you said, it's the same way. I love that you went to the USC game with me. I love that, when I'm watching the Niners, you want the Niners to win. When they're in the Super Bowl, you're supportive, but I don't need you like gung ho, have to talk I want you to talk all the
Would you
skill sets.
like that though? Like I see like a lot of husband and wives who are like or partners that
I
are
think it would be if I was back to how I was before. Like it
okay.
was all consuming for me,
Yeah.
where my identity was wrapped up in it, where a win or loss would tear me down, right? I think I think back then it would have been I would have appreciated it more, or maybe not appreciated, just like would have liked that more. But I don't think so anymore because it's not all I'll miss a game. Like it's not all consuming
Yeah.
to me like it was before. I love that you support the teams that I support.
Yeah.
And then we can have, if I want to have a conversation with you, you could understand, and you
Yeah.
watch a game, you understand what's going on. Like,
Yeah.
it's great. But I don't need you there. And you ask great questions. So
No,
no.
that's cool. I think at the end of the day, to answer your question fully, like, I don't think it's the same response that you had. I don't think it bothers me to a point where it's like an issue. It's just because I'm a woman that there's a little bit of a
Especially around
difference.
this election. Yeah.
Yes, around this
Yeah.
election.
Well, I think for me, I want a world where we're all have the basic needs met. I always think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like my philosophy is that everyone should be able to have a home, be able to provide food, feel safe, right? Like, 'cause I think if everyone is in a position where their basic needs are met, that they have an opportunity, then they're not worrying about it. It's really hard to find success in anything in life, or if you don't have your basic needs and that's what you're worried about all the time. So for me, it's which one gets us closer to that space, to the space where everyone can have a find access to shelter, find access to food, education, and healthcare. Because I think if everybody has access to that, right, then at that point you have all the resources you need to go make decisions to put yourself in a position to the job, the career you want, all those things. So for me, I just want everyone's basic human needs met. And whatever decision or whatever choice I make to vote, whatever gets us closer to that point is where I'm always headed. And for me, it's that simple. Like everyone should have the right to choose because no matter what this is, whether it's your body or anything, you should just have a right to choose and not have basic needs unmet. If we can just we have enough money in this country and in this world that everyone has the opportunity to get their basic needs met. It would be it is that simple. We have way more than enough money and resources that everyone should have basic needs met, but we can't do that. And that's, to me, every decision or vote or thing I'm thinking about is how do I get us closer to that point where everyone doesn't have to worry about what we all as humans, that's our like we should innately be given that as a human being in this world. I believe that because then I believe anything's possible for anybody at that point, right? And so where I'm going to lean and will think about is what gets us closer to that point. And that's how I look at it. And you can look at so many things because there's something on this side that's different and most people are in the middle. Let's be real. Most people like things on this side and don't like things on that side. And that will always exist. But again, it comes back to your values. It's not that simple, but to me, it's that simple.
People are going to argue right now that housing's unaffordable, education is
Groceries
shit,
aren't affordable.
groceries aren't affordable. I don't think I don't think
it's not that simple. That's the hard part. It's not that simple.
No.
Because
no one, the thing is not everyone has access to it. So there's not only inequality, but there's inequity in these issues where it's just they don't have the same ability to get the same access to things. And I mean,
my thing is for the majority of people, who's the person that's going to give more access to more people?
Okay,
that's what I look at.
And how do you feel about that right now?
I feel like where we're voting, that gives us that opportunity to be closer to that. Because they're going to hit a majority population of people that I think will have more access and will have more money to provide for themselves.
Mm-hmm. All right, I want to take us back to 2012. This was the first time that I became very aware of politics, specifically around women's rights, because Obama and Romney had very different opinions on these ideals, very respectful. Politics was boring at
Yeah.
the time, but
Wish we could get back to that.
I was such a nice, boring time that this is just what it is. There's two parts of this I want to talk about. The first part I want to talk about is how we learn our value system and where that comes from, and then how we begin to develop our own.
Yep.
And the second thing is once we have a partner, how does that shift? Because at 2012, specifically, I remember we were sitting on my couch watching the debate. I think we watched a little bit of it, not very much. They were talking about abortion. And I was very adamant about women having the right to choose. And you did not see it that way. You did not understand what that meant. For majority of people who are uneducated, they believe pro-choice is to be pro-abortion. That is not what pro-choice means. Pro-choice means pro-choice.
Yeah, you choose.
You can choose what you want to do. It's your body. You choose. We got into an argument because you were talking about your own interest, and at that time it was military, and you brought that up. And that was not something that I had necessarily thought about, of how absolutely vital and important the military is to our country, to keeping us safe. And even my dad's a vet. Like I didn't even think about that. So now in 2024, you are pro-choice.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So
every human being should have the right to make any decision about their body. Yeah.
We had two opposing views.
Yes.
And you had not thought about what I had thought about, and I had not thought about what you had thought about.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. What was shaping these thoughts and ideas?
Well, I don't think is when you're being raised, what's influencing you, right? We came from a higher middle class family. My dad's parents had good money, both, and my mom's side, we had a judge, he was in the military as well. So those things are there. I don't think things were ever talked about. Like, I don't remember conversations between my parents during elections. I knew we were Republican. That's what I knew. That's all I knew, is that they typically voted Republican, and that was the way they went. I don't know why. I didn't know the policies or anything underneath it, but I had access to education and healthcare. Like, I just had everything I needed at that point. And I don't know how that view, specifically about that view about, pro-choice or anything like that. I just don't think I ever had been educated.
You also went to a Catholic high school?
I went to a Catholic high school, but I wasn't, fully out. Half my family is Jewish. My mom's side was Christian. So I went to church. I went to a synagogue. I celebrated all holidays. So I kind of got a little bit of everything. Catholic high school, like, I just went there because it was mostly for sports and education. We had to go to mass and stuff like that, but I never took that too seriously. I was actually interested when I took world religions, and I learned about everything and what everybody thought. I've always been open-minded, I would say, to learning new information. And I think I just hadn't been educated. So I don't know where those beliefs, somewhere they were influenced.
So you had that belief, and then obviously, I don't know if you like fully remember that conversation. Do you remember it?
Yeah, I do now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what then happened for you then?
Well, I think that was really educating because you had a lot more information, and obviously you being a woman knew a lot more about your body. So I think for me, it was really growing up and starting to become an adult and starting to make an income and having to pay for things and all that stuff. You get a little more interested. You see big events happening in the world, and you're a little more interested than you ever had before, because it's just, that's what happens when you grow up. You get a little more mature. Yeah. And then I think going through my own personal development journey, I didn't really have a lot of empathy and compassion back then because I just wasn't good at that.
I know why you weren't, because you weren't feeling it for yourself.
Yeah, I was blocked. Yeah, as I said, you can't have empathy or compassion if you don't understand your own emotions and all those things and how you experience things. So I think once I got to understand what real fear and stress and how those things played out for me and all that, I started thinking about, think about a woman or anybody who doesn't have their basic and is worrying all the time about, can I take care of my family? Can I take care of my kids? And I was like, man, what would it feel like to be in that position? Then that allowed me to see. So now when looking at policies and stuff like that, if it's going to put fear or put someone in that is deep fear or scared or anxiety or worry constantly, I don't want that to happen to any human being anymore. I don't think that's there's nothing good that comes from that. And you have to be open because you don't know what their experience is. And again, it all comes back through how they were raised and what's important to them and what they value and where they see these things are going to impact their lives and their children's lives because they're thinking the same thing we're thinking. So I try to be open and try to understand, even though something I'm like, I don't get that, but there is a reason. People aren't just blindly doing it for no reason.
No. Everyone has a reason.
Everyone has a reason.
I did have somebody, I posted some political content on Instagram and I had someone reach out to me and it wasn't the softest Facebook message to receive, but it was not worth for me to fully debate. And instead, I said, I respect your position.
Yeah.
I understand, like, these are your real fears, and that's okay. I don't agree. And for where I am in my life and the family that I have built, this is what is important to me and to my family. Yeah. And so we ended up with like, it was a pleasant experience. And I just wish that more of us could do that because then it wouldn't be so divisive.
Yeah. That's what I wish, because I think back earlier was more like that, right? In the last 8 years, it's gotten drastically different. And now it's attacking. It's like, what are we talking about? Like, are we talking about policies and how that impacts the American people? Because that's what we're trying to build on here.
We're not talking about that anymore.
But a lot of people's fears, that's the hard part, is people's fears are based off things they've experienced in their life. And that's what influences what they value, and they don't want to experience that again. They feel one candidate, right, addresses that.
Right.
And or it's, your parents and what you choose. Now it's really what you choose to read and what you choose to consume. There's so much confirmation bias out there. Like,
where do you get your information?
I try to look at everything, right? So I'll, like, on one topic, I'll look everywhere on one thing. Like I'll try to find, I don't want to just see one side. I'll look, like, if the topic, I'll look what Fox is saying, what MSNBC, what CNN, I'll go all over. I've been looking at, there's just been this cool thing on YouTube where they put one like conservative person in the middle of a room.
In a circle. And then there's a group.
But I did both sides. I wanted to
I watched it on Instagram.
I watched both. And it's like interesting to see.
Is that your take? Yeah.
And it's really interesting. So I'm watching both, that there's 25 against 1 or 1 against 25 on both sides. And I'm watching both and just seeing things. I'm learning things that I haven't heard before, because usually the person in the middle has all their stats and has everything they want to debate and the topics they want to talk about. And then other people get to come in and chime in on it. So I want all the information, right? It's not, nothing's really influencing me, because at the end of the day, just policy set aside, there's some things that, as far as a value system or the kind of person, that I just can't make that decision. Because I don't want that a representation of who we are as a country, and that is what it is. I want to hear it all, because I am interested, because as I said, there's some things on that side, there's some things on this side. There always will be. And can we ever get to a state where that exists? Probably not, because of democracy and social media. And now we have to be so extreme in our ways of thinking in order to get people to vote, because people it's a competitive world. We want to be on one side or the other. It's us versus them. And we like that bonding experience. And that's tough. Like, we should all be bonded that we're American and that we want the best for everybody in this country, not just for my family, not just for that person over there, not just for this group of people. Like, all we got is each other. Like, we're one country and one nation.
I really feel like what I'm seeing right now with this unity and this like push for voting and all these things, like I have a lot of pride now. So let's switch gears and talk about we aren't in this position, so we can't fully relate to it. We can relate to having friends and family voting differently than us and how we've kept relationships with them. And
hear what you just said. That would have never happened before.
What?
Right? That would have never happened back in the older days, that
no,
you even thought of, like, I can't talk to that person more because they're voting away. Like, that's the crap about this.
No, because it's very, very different.
That's what I'm saying. But that's crazy that our politics has evolved that to that point now.
Yeah.
That before is like, you could have a conversation with somebody and there's just one side or the other, and wasn't this thing, well, I can't relate myself with you.
Yeah.
I can't even trust you. Like, now we're becoming more divisive because of who we choose, because we're trying to do something and make a decision that's right for our family. That's what upsets me.
What?
A lot. That's where it's gotten to.
Yeah, it really is. It's unfortunate. And I read this quote. It was much longer than the little paraphrasing I'm going to do right now, but it was something like, not all Trump supporters are racist, but all of them decided that racism wasn't a deal breaker. Because I don't think like specifically people I know well, are not bad people.
No.
They're really wonderful people. Yeah. And they decided that at one point,
the biggest thing is that there's certain other things that they think are more pertinent to their life and their families. And then you have to make a choice. And that's the hard part is like, but these things are going to help my family. So am I thinking about my family or am I thinking about everybody else?
Yeah.
And
no, I know.
Most people are going to make the decision for their family.
Okay, so let's talk about that. The families, as I said a little bit ago, we're not in this position. We're voting for the same people. But as we said, there's family and friends that are voting differently than us. What are your thoughts about that in marriage and a partnership who people are voting against? And again, this isn't old politics. This isn't Republican, Democrat, old school. This is Democrat versus MAGA. This is not like there's so many Republicans who have moved over specifically for this election who are, they are real Republicans who value those policies, but not MAGA. So I'm just curious, how does that work in a marriage when one person votes one way and the other votes the other way? Does that?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard for me to understand.
It's hard. It just depends. Are you able to talk about it and be okay with, we don't agree on every single thing there is. No. Obviously, this is a big thing.
Yeah.
But can we communicate? Can we have good dialogue about it? Can we understand each other's perspective and have empathy? Because that's life. Like we're going to disagree with a lot of people.
I think that's a really, really good point is, can we have conversation about it? Like, are we open to hearing the other person's side, respecting it, and not necessarily agreeing, but respecting it?
Yeah, respecting. And I always say, I forget where I heard this, but I'm trying to apply it in like my work setting. But is when you have a disagreement with somebody, before you state your reason for your things and your points, you first have to be able to make a case for that other person. Can you make a case for that other person? Can you come up with why they would make that decision or have that viewpoint? And can you come up with that? That's probably challenging for a lot of people, especially in your relationships with others. And we talked about this, like I wish it didn't get to the point where our relationship has to be based on if I'm going one way or the other, but I think it's built that way. It's hard not to, I think at times when you hear where someone's going or what they're thinking, even in our families, like, and you're like, you feel vastly different. How do you navigate that communication? How do you navigate those conversations? People are passionate on both sides of it.
Yeah.
Especially with your family. It's like, it can get really intense. I think we felt that before in some times, right? And we've actually like set boundaries and things, which I think is an important tool. Like when we know we're not going to come to an agreement on something, let's just set boundaries around what we're going to talk about and what we're not going to talk about, because no one's going to win in that. And I think that's important. Yeah.
I mean, it's very unfortunate for me when I think about that, because I'm the kind of person that feels like it's probably part of my neurodivergence is that when I'm not sharing all the things and I'm not being truly authentic, I'm masking up. And so I was thinking about some experiences that we've had and that I've had to not show all my cards or whisper to somebody about an experience, right? And that sucks. But how do I deal with it? I just don't. Like, it's not the healthiest thing. I'm not around that every day. So a lot of times I can block it out.
I think it's also not that it would be in your life every day. It's always these 4 years. Like a lot of times in between, this isn't like we're not talking about this all the time. It might be a big decision.
But here's for me, it's forever. So it's like it's this person and it's this person, and I will always remember that this is what happened because of what's happening right now. Again, for me, this is not about old school politics at all. Because as you also mentioned, there were policies and things that you were, oh, I like this over here as a more conservative party. I like this over here as a more socially liberal party. Like you were like pick and choose type of thing, right? We're not there anymore.
No.
And so for me,
we're farther than that we've ever been, I feel like.
Farther than we've ever been on both sides, right? It's a very, very, very intense.
I don't like the sometimes the approaches of both sides.
It sucks.
It sucks that we have to. These are our choices.
Right.
Right.
No, but I like Kamala Harris.
Yeah,
So.
I'm saying because of the world we're in now, especially in America, the way they have to approach
Yes.
things is
Yes. We aren't in a position where it's coming up like the left and the right side often,
no,
right? So, and even when we've been with family with differentiating opinions, it's still not coming up.
no, which I think is okay.
It's been fine.
Yeah.
It's been fine. Like it's not
The
been,
most important piece, like, okay, where do we find common ground? Not in
yeah.
politics, just in general, that we can enjoy each other's time. It doesn't,
Yes, 100%.
I have to have empathy and compassion for everybody at the end of the day. I try to at least have empathy and compassion to understand. I don't know everyone's situation or what's going on for them. I just don't.
When you see white, affluent people who give zero fucks about anybody else and only care about their own family, you have compassion, empathy for them.
But you're saying they also might be making decisions thinking it's better for everybody else. But in their way, I guarantee everyone who's voting for Trump is not just thinking about themselves. I guarantee that. They really think and believe that he is better for the American people. That's why most people vote for that reason.
No, most people vote for their own sake.
Yeah,
with a second aspect being, and I can say this myself.
Yeah, most of us. Yeah.
I'm voting Kamala Harris because she is better for my family.
Yes.
And for America.
Yes. And that's what you believe.
Yes.
Yes. And that's the hardest part about this. It's hard to understand. This is even hard for us. Like that we're aligned and we have similar values, but it's still hard because I see someone that I know that I have a relationship with and knew they vote that way. I don't think it'll immediately come up for me.
Because once again,
I'm a white male.
Yes.
But
no, this election doesn't fucking matter if it goes left or right for you. It does not matter. You don't understand.
It impacts my daughter.
Yeah, but like still it doesn't impact you.
But is she my daughter?
Yes, but it doesn't impact you. It impacts your family.
You're talking about one thing. You don't think there's any policies that impact me as a white male? You don't think there's anything?
Let's hear it.
But do you not think there's anything?
Is there? There's not one flaw that impacts you. No. Like I'm saying is it doesn't fucking matter to you. You are not in a position to feel the gravity of this. So you're not going to be fucking angry about it. You're not going to be angry about your rights being taken away, that you will die in the middle of a parking lot because 3 ERs say, no, I can't help you. You're not going to feel that, even if it was Sydney. Yes, if God...
How would I not feel that if it was Sydney? You can claim that.
But right now, as a 2-year-old, you don't get it. You've never been pregnant. You've never breastfed. You've never given birth. This is... When I see other women not supporting other women, when we are dying and not getting the right care for ourselves, women are dying, not just because of pregnancy, because people don't give a fuck. So for me, when I hear that somebody is voting for Trump, and this is not the old school days, this is not 2016.
And we're on the same page with that.
I understand that, but you have empathy and compassion for people who are voting for Trump, who don't give a fuck of how bad of a person he is. And I do not. Yeah. I can have cordial relationships, be kind to them. I'd rather be the person who is kind and compassionate to all. But like I can do that piece, but that's not going to change the level of the relationship for me.
For sure. I totally get that. We just have to have a level of respect, and that's what's lacking.
Yeah.
That's the piece that's lacking. Like, it's so vastly a lack of respect that exists. And that's what we're all fucking Americans. Like, we all want the best. We're supposed to live in the best country, and it doesn't feel that way anymore. Right? And that's the hard part. I love your passion. I think it's important to have that passion.
It sucks because like
it sucks that we're here.
It sucks. This whole thing sucks.
And that's the hard
because
part.
I actually had friends in 2016 who were very Republican and were voting for Trump, okay? And I was obviously not. I was voting for Clinton. But we sat on my couch and I asked all these questions. Tell me more about why this is important to you. Educate me, because I don't know why this is important. And they asked me questions, and it was so fucking civil. And it was really insightful for
Doesn't feel that
me.
way anymore. Our country's being pulled apart at the end of the day. My hope is that through all of this, whatever this is that we see how this isn't the way that we should be as Americans.
I mean, people seem to be waking up.
It seems to be waking up, and it sucks. As we've said in previous episodes, you can't have the great without the bad. So if we can live through this and see what the experience is, and obviously it goes through tough times and hard things happen, and we battle against each other and hate each other, that hopefully there's an other side to this, that we come out and we realize this isn't helpful.
I want to talk about something that I think is important, is about fake news, social media, because it's on both. I don't believe, and I'm sure this could be said on the other side, I don't believe that what I am reading from the Democratic Party is fake news, because it's from the Constitution or it's actual laws that are being put in place. Like, there are a lot of this noise of insanity, of fake chaos, like that FEMA wasn't helping North Carolina victims, which is not true when actual North Carolinians are on the ground saying FEMA is everywhere. This fuckery is really like,
but this is what's causing us to pull this far apart too.
I know.
That's the problem. As you guys can tell, there's some passion here. But I think this is the point. Like, even in a good communication, a good relationship can still get heated.
So how do we recover now?
We respect each other. We respect each other because we love each other.
But if you had a different viewpoint than me, especially about this, I don't know if I'd feel that way.
But I don't think we would be together.
But so I asked you this question about couples.
I think it's really important early on in a relationship. You have to understand each other's values and be honest and open about that.
Do you think that like, should that be a deal breaker in relationships if they have a different?
It depends if it's core, deep values of things.
So you don't think what we're talking about right now is core values?
Because everyone has different core values.
Here's what I'm asking you. I just cannot even imagine myself in a relationship with somebody with this. Like, we had this argument in 2012.
Of course. So we needed to figure that out.
And so
that was what the
like, I would not have stayed with you if that viewpoint didn't change. There'd be no way, because that was like, and it's so important to me. Yeah. So does it just not matter to some people?
Some people it doesn't.
That's wild to me.
But certain things don't matter. Certain topics don't matter as much, especially, as you said before, if they don't feel as impactful in their lives, right?
But everything we're talking about in politics is impactful. That's the things. People don't think it's going to directly impact them.
I think they don't think it will, or they don't see how it will.
How are we going to wrap this up?
I think the most important people, like, just try to have whatever is happening in the world, with the best thing we can do is have respect for one another.
Yeah.
Like, we got to respect one another, not just in this country, everywhere. Like just respect the human race, like, for what it is. People are going to have beliefs, and it's trying to have some understanding and knowing that all of us are shaped as individuals very uniquely in what that looks like. And if we judge others, that's where these problems come, right?
Yeah.
Is when we start to judge and we don't understand, we don't seek to understand, and we just live in our world and only find stories and the stuff that benefits us and helps us without ever seeing the other side. Even if you see the other side, you don't have to agree with it or believe it, but just at least try to have some understanding of where other people are coming from.
Yep.
That's important. We're never going to fully agree on everything. It's just life. Me and you don't agree on everything, but we're still in a relationship and we make it work, and we love each other deeply and we respect one another, even though we don't have the same opinion on every single thing in the world. Mm-hmm. It's like, how do we can do that for everything else? Like, that's what we need to figure out.
Yeah. And
stop allowing other people's beliefs and stories to influence you. Have your own set of beliefs and values. Go inward.
And that's what I was going to say. Go understand what go
understand your real beliefs, not
your
what
beliefs.
Reading.
Right.
Just because you read something and it sounded good.
Right.
Like, but think about that. Like, this always goes back to your own personal development of yourself.
Right.
Like, what does it matters to you? What do you believe? Like, go think about that. Think about how these feelings you're having inside, everybody feels these feelings.
Well, as Jarrod said, this was a heated conversation for us even too. And knowing that if this is happening for you as well, you're not alone in this experience of the intensity of the election, of what, these last few days feel like. It is really, everybody's feeling this, regardless of what side that you're on. The biggest takeaway that from what Jarrod just said is to be respectful of thy neighbor, right? Of to be really, what is it? The golden rule, right? Like, do unto others as others would do unto you, and to continue to practice that. Don't be douchebags. Treat people with respect.
Yeah.
Ask questions. Have conversations. Learn. Grow. Be better. Look at your shit on your phone as face value and do more digging and understand what truly resonates with you. Be your own person. And it is hard to be different. It is really uncomfortable to have a differentiating opinion or feeling that you want to express or showcase or put out there. It is hard to do. It can be hard to be different than your family members. It can be hard to be different than friends. And it's okay to be your own person. Last remarks is, if you're listening to this and it's November 5th and you have not voted, get to a poll and go vote. Bring a phone charger because I hear the lines are long.
Thank you guys. Please subscribe, comment, share. What did you think? So appreciate you. Go out and vote. Bye.